running them beats.
Should higher education in Louisiana receive more funding, less funding, or no funding from the state? In aspirations and becoming a doctor, like a lot of you, I believe Louisiana's Taylor Opportunity Program for students, also known as TOPS, would be a huge helping hand in my success. Me and majority of students in Louisiana have worked diligently since high school to receive the TOPS Scholarship Award in the largest amount that we could. The Taylor Opportunity Program for students covered the tuition for anyone who qualified. The requirements included an average ACT score and a 2.5 GPA in high school core classes. In 2016, the budget for the TOPS scholarship was cut and resulted in a lot of anger and helpless people. I know that you would agree with me when I say higher education in Louisiana needs more funding. Without receiving more funding, tuition and fees will increase, enrollment will decrease, and student debt would be larger. Not only do students have to worry about tuition, they also have fees and other expenses that accompany the higher cost of education. Things like room and board, meal plans, textbooks, classroom and laboratory fees, spirit fees, and other miscellaneous charges could add on thousands of dollars to an already expensive base. TOPS gives students attending a post-secondary institution great assistance with providing coverage of thousands of dollars that comes from the state. Over 30,000 students that reside in Louisiana rely on TOPS for education. Cutting TOPS drew great attention from Louisiana residents and the media. CNN reported the state is facing a historic $600 million budget shortfall and needed an emergency legislative session last year to fix the state's finances. It was at that time in the spring when lawmakers said that TOPS would not be fully funded for the 2016-2017 school year. Louisiana students became desperate and worried that they would not be able to continue their education or receive their degree. Some created GoFundMe accounts and had fundraisers to raise money to cover their tuition for the spring semester. Since the TOPS scholarship was implemented, students had always received full tuition coverage. After budget cuts, as stated by Julia O'Donoghue from NOLA.com, students were responsible for covering 58% of tuition in the spring. And according to 4WWL news station, Louisiana State University System President F. King Alexander told the Board of Regents in September that a cut this high likely would deter some students from returning in the spring semester. Students like me had no choice but to take out student loans to pay for school just so I could enroll and continue my education. So, is anyone other than Louisiana residents worried about our future in education? Fortunately, the head of our legislature, Louisiana State Governor John Bell Edwards, gave a statement saying, "When we leave our kids with more debt than necessary, we failed them. Going forward, it is my hope that we can restore funding to TOPS because too many students across the state are dependent upon the assistance of it." In fact, despite the budget shortfalls we're currently facing, we will not be making any further cuts to this program. Today, we risk having an influx of students drop out of college or leave with burdensome debt. We can and must do better. Our governor and administration have been working to come up with ways to restore faith in Louisiana's education and retrieve all funding for TOPS. Short-term and long-term ideas, according to the Board of Regents, have been created to solve our problem. Short-term solutions include utilizing the rainy day fund, cutting statutory dedications, and redirecting the first-year payment of the BP settlement non-coastal dollars. Long-term solutions include clean penny sales state tax, renewing and increasing cell phone and landline state telecommunications tax, repealing business utilities sale tax exemption, suspending refundable ad valorem tax credit business, and raising tobacco tax. Us, as Louisiana residents, can push to have these solutions take place. Things like petitions, marches, and rallies can be done to keep the pressure on administration in fixing these problems. Cutting the budget on education is not an option, although many politicians seem to believe it is the only choice. That and healthcare are usually the first to go. Their paychecks are absolutely safe, but the education of those who plan on someday running our state are not so safe, in constant jeopardy, in fact. Budget cuts have greatly affected how our children learn, what they learn, and when they learn. In the future, without receiving more funding, the cost for higher education for our children and next generation will come directly from our students and families and out of our pockets. If the cost is unaffordable, you will either result in accumulating loans or not being able to send your kids to get a post-secondary education. By performing the task I previously stated, we can work to receive our funding back from the state and refrain from collecting so much student loans.